Hello, and welcome to another Azure Striker Gunvolt 2 guide. I'm ShadowRock, and in this video, I'm going to show you where to find every medal throughout each of Gunvolt 2's stages. I will be covering both GV and Copen for every level, too. This is going to be a long one, so I took the initiative to timestamp each part of this video. If you're looking for a particular stage really quick, go to the description below and click on a timestamp. Otherwise, keep watching for an introduction on medals. Now, if you happen to be new to the Gunvolt series, you may be about to ask me, what is a medal? What does it do? And why should I care about it? Well, I'm glad you asked. Medals are these items pictured here. There are 5 of these scattered throughout every stage in the game. Well, almost every stage, because there are a few stages where you won't find any medals at all. Mainly because these are more about fighting bosses. These include GV's downtown stage from the introduction when you face off with Tenjian, both characters in stage 1, the Garden 3, and Secret Mission 5. That being the case, I won't be discussing these stages today. For every medal that you collect, you will receive one bonus try at the end of the stage. Tries allow you to take a material that you can use to synthesize new gear in the Sim shop, so the higher your rank and the more medals you collected, the more materials you will get. Not to mention, there is a challenge for every applicable level that requires collecting all 5 medals and then clearing the stage. So if you're a completionist, there's at least one reason why you should care. Now that we understand what medals are, let's actually get this collected on the road. Again, I will be covering both GV and Copen for each stage. Most of the locations are identical between both characters, but I will specify where there are differences. As you begin and pass through the first 2 shutters, you will eventually find a container underneath a thin platform. Use your flash field to break it and obtain medal number 1. However, there won't be a medal for Copen here. Instead, it's just across the way to your right. Dash to the left side of the wall to claim his medal number 1. From here, climb up to the right side of the same wall to find medal number 2. Continue on a little further until the level begins to lead downwards. Before you head down though, wall climb up the wall and you'll find a suspicious hallway that will lead to medal number 3. Medals number 4 and number 5 are in part 2 of the stage during the chase sequence. They are in plain sight, so you should not miss them at all. Just make sure to collect them lightning fast. Shortly after the cutscene where Lola activates, you will come to a blue building with a container hidden under a thin ledge, which contains medal number 1. After the cutscene with Zonda, continue forward and you will see medal number 2 dead ahead. A little further ahead, past the water tower, drop down and grab medal number 3. GV won't find anything here though. Instead, continue on until the hexapile at the end of part 1, but don't break it just yet. Jump over it and a little ways down is his medal number 3. On your way through the opening hallway of part 2, grab medal number 4, which is behind a stack of 3 containers in a backwards L shape. Lastly, on the wire line right before the boss, drop down by pressing down and the jump button to find medal number 5 sitting on a small platform adjacent to the left wall. Be careful not to fall to your death though! Medal number 1 is hiding behind the first purple colored window that you come across. Simply use your flash field or stellar spark to break it. Continue onward until you start seeing Iron Maidens. No, not the attack Iron Maiden. I mean, those coffins that are spikier than Phoenix Wright's hair. Soon you will have to go upwards. When you do, medal number 2 will be sitting behind an enemy to your left. Keep going until you reach the last hexapile before the boss. But don't break it, whatever you do. Jump over it and you will find a secret passage. Move forward until you drop down. Head right, and there's medal number 3. Now go back to the beginning of the secret passage and you'll see an opening in the ceiling. Jump up there and head left past the spooky zombies, trap, and Iron Maiden until you drop down. Head right to discover medal number 4. There's nothing else left in this spooky maze, so go left until you're outside and start climbing the stairs. Once you reach the top, the lone purple window will yield medal number 5 once broken. As you progress, you eventually see a container floating inside its own space above some water. Climb up next to it and break it. It will yield medal number 1. Shortly after that, you will drop down to a long slope of a path leading in both directions. Head left into the water, take out the enemy, and while you won't find any mutant ninja turtles, you will find medal number 2. In part 2 of the stage, you will start to deal with typhoons. Avoid them until you see 2 soldiers on either side of you. Defeat or escape them, and drop down on one more floor to find medal number 3. As you head down the following section of typhoons, be wary of the container on the left side because it contains medal number 4. Carefully maneuver around the typhoons and nab the medal before they can pull you back up. After you clear the room of enemies, proceed until you fall down, and medal number 5 will be to the left in plain sight. Spark through the stage until you see what I will call the Lumen virus for the first time. Immediately after, you will see 2 cannon enemies. Medal number 1 is behind the one at the top. After that, you'll come to an open hallway with tons of pits. Underneath one of the large platforms is the smaller one with medal number 2 sitting on top. Either air dash or float with a flash field to reach it. Not too long later, you'll find a container sitting in an alcove with spikes preventing you from wall climbing. Instead, air hop in or air dash to it and medal number 3 will be yours. Next, there will be an area filled to the teeth with spikes and movable platforms. When you reach the end of it, wall climb up rather than going forward, and there medal number 4 hides. In part 2, you will approach a truly expansive area with many blue and red lines. Use your flash field to climb the blue lines or Copen's dashes to reach the top, then head all the way to the top left and you'll find— Darn it, Teseo! Quit trolling us! No. Medal number 5 is actually towards the end of the stage in an area with nothing but blue lines and spikes below. Keep your flash field active and quickly grab the last medal before your EP runs out. At the beginning, keep going until you find the first steep slope. Instead of taking the slide though, we need to follow Obi-Wan Kenobi's advice and get to the high ground. Get on the small footholds at the top and show medal number 1 not to underestimate your stamina. After ascending the second set of disappearing icicles, medal number 2 will be just to the left on an icy slope. As you ascend in part 2, medal number 3 will be to your top left. You'll know you're there when you see the large white enemy with the saw. Past the room of enemies, you'll see an anti-slip machine to the right of a series of disappearing icicles. Next to that is medal number 4. When you are jumping up the long series of disappearing icicles towards the end of the stage, check the right towards the top past the stationary enemy where medal number 5 hides. The first medal comes up almost immediately at the start. Just climb up to the first wall you come to and medal number 1 is yours. You will eventually come across an area with a zigzagging hair? Anyway, climb up to the left side of the wall and you'll pass by medal number 2. Continuing on, you'll see some really thick pipe-like hair. Keep climbing up the right wall and you'll find another secret passage. Medal number 3 is right for the taking. The first medal in part 2 can be easy to overlook. Climb up and move to the right to get on the higher ground. Now dash up and to the left and you'll be able to reach the isolated area containing medal number 4. Since GV has a tougher time getting up there, the developers instead placed this medal number 4 back in part 1, in the second area of zigzagging hair, between the 2 locations of medals 2 and 3. Finally, after passing the next checkpoint, go on up, then to the right for medal number 5. As you enter the first labyrinth-like area, there are some blocks on your left that only Copen can break. You can either use the Prism break to smash them, or, especially if you're using GV, take the long way around, then grab medal number 1. Directly underneath medal number 1 is another secluded area with medal number 2. Watch for the enemy that activates behind you. Move forward past the first checkpoint at the beginning of the second labyrinthian area. Once you pass the first set of conveyors, go to the top and then to the left until you see another block that requires Prism break. Smash it and take medal number 3. However, as you may guess, GV cannot access this medal. Instead, from the beginning of the area, head up once and then to the left until you find yourself in a room with 3 enemies that are guarding GV's medal number 3. Strike them and claim your treasure. Directly to the right is another small passage. Carefully jump across the platforms, taking care not to fall, and medal number 4 awaits you at the end. In part 3, after defeating Asroc for the first time, medal number 5 is straight ahead at the right end of the corridor. Progress until you're past the first burning car and see 2 blocks. Destroy them, and to the bottom left is medal number 1 behind another car and a sprinkler. When you see 2 tall crystal pillars, get to the top of the left pillar and you'll find medal number 2 behind a broken car. From there, move right and drop all the way down at the second chance that you get. Now move left, then jump up and a soldier will be seen guarding medal number 3. When you see a sprinkler, 3 boxes and a car, instead of messing with those, climb up and to the right, then drop down to the other side and another soldier will be guarding medal number 4. It's alright, we can leave the extinguishing to the firemen. Right before the mini boss, you can spot a single metal box. Smash it, and behind it is medal number 5. First, Copen's medal number 1 is to the far right as you begin this stage. Dash into the small corridor beyond a wall of spikes to find it. GV will only find credits here though. Instead, his medal number 1 is further into the stage. Much further. Fight your way past the second checkpoint and jump over the spiked floor ahead. Now wall climb on the right wall until you finally see GV's medal number 1. Coincidentally, this is also Copen's medal number 2. From here, work your way left and wall climb on the left wall to find GV's medal number 2 and Copen's medal number 3 in the corner. In part 2, there's a conveyor belt that runs above a stationary enemy. Get on the conveyor and pick up GV's medal number 3 and Copen's medal number 4. Just on the other side of the wall, GV's medal number 4 is waiting on yet another conveyor. There's an enemy to the right though, so keep your head low so you don't get shot at. Finally, both characters will find their medal number 5 just past the hexapile at the end of part 2. Man, they like doing that a lot, don't they? Now, this is where things are going to get really interesting, because GV and Copen each have their own alternate path through Garden 2. I will cover GV's exclusive locations first, and then Copen. GV's medal number 1 is truly hard to miss. It's right under a thin platform as you begin the stage. Now, as soon as you enter the shutter for GV's path, get up to the top left corner for his medal number 2. As you are approaching the puzzle of 5 switches, climb up top to the path that leads to the leftmost switch, and medal number 3 will be right there. When you are actually done with that puzzle, ride the yellow platform and to your left is medal number 4. Now let's take a quick detour and go to Copen's alternate path. After the first checkpoint, dash over the gap and medal number 1 is right there in front of you. Past the second checkpoint, medal number 2 is sitting on top of a thin platform against a wall. Cross one more gap, then climb to the top left to find medal number 3. Medal number 4 is past the third checkpoint and sits in plain sight once you climb over the tall platform. Man, Copen's medals in this stage are really easy to find. Now, finally, both characters' paths will actually meet up for the last medal in the game. In the room of pillars before the hexapile, climb up the 7th pillar from the right, and there will be one more secret compartment. Bust open the container and get both GV and Copen's final medal number 5. And at long last, that is every medal that you can find in Azure Striker Gunvolt 2. Believe me when I say that a lot of research, play, and work has gone into this video. Like, no kidding. So I hope that this has helped you to complete those medal collecting challenges and get some neat materials while you're at it. I also want to thank DJ Rarity on YouTube for suggesting this video. If you have any other ideas for Gunvolt 2 videos that I haven't done yet, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'll see what I can do. As always, thanks for watching, and for more on Azure Striker Gunvolt and other things Mega Man and Mega Man-esque, stay tuned to ShadowRockZX. Until next time, rock on!